This really is a slideshow.
One anime that everyone's talking about lately is The Beginning After the End, or TBATE for short. As someone who uses tapas quite frequently and even published a webcomic, which I've taken down to reboot, I've seen TBATE on tapa's front page pretty often. And while I checked out some episodes of it a couple of years ago, I didn't really get very far in the story until I decided that it wasn't for me. I think I stopped reading at around episode 20. I got bored and there were a lot of BLs calling for my name, and then I forgot about it. While I've seen a lot of people talking about T-Bait, there are not really very positive reviews since they're all saying that the animation is really awful and, well, it looks more like a slideshow than an animation. Still, I decided to give it a shot out of curiosity since the story is so beloved by a lot of people. First thing that comes to mind is that the story really is very similar to Mushoku Tensei just based on the first episode alone, but without the fan service and very questionable stuff, which I really appreciate. Listen, I've been watching animes for over 2 decades now. I've seen my fair share of fan service, but I've never gotten the ick the same way Mushoku Tensei gave me the ick, which is why I dropped it after a couple of episodes. But that's beside the point. Let's quickly go over the episode and then I'll share some analysis about the opening and ending. You guys can tell me then if I was right or wrong about them. We start the episode with an introduction to our main character's past life. He was a king in a very futuristic world before he died. I'm going to assume he died because of an assassination, but who knows, it could have been because of old age too. I find the fact that he was from a futuristic society and presumably an alternate reality very fascinating. Finally, it's not a random Japanese person who got isekai'd into a medieval Eurocentric fantasy world. I am so tired of that trope, man. The modern isekai stories nowadays are so boring and cookie cutter. Back in my days, we had Inuyasha, Fushigi Yugi, Magic Knight Rayard, and Digimon as our isekai stories. I feel bad for you new gens, cause every season there seems to be an isekai story that is a copy-paste of another more popular one. Don't get me wrong, I do love some isekais out there. I really enjoy ReZero and Slime Tensei, but you can't really deny that their stories are a cut above the rest. Also side note, Magic Knight Rayard is getting a reboot, and I'm looking forward to it. It's a magical girl isekai where 3 girls pilot giant magic robots while fighting evil in a fantasy world. Anyway, back to T-Bait. The main character was reborn into a baby named Arthur, and he figured out that there's magic in this world thanks to his parents using it casually around him. In his futuristic world, there is something similar to mana called ki. There were a lot of mentions of him shitting himself in his baby body, which is kinda odd. I got it the first time. Babies shit, that's what they do. It's really weird and awkward if you had the mind of an adult. Pointing this out once should have been enough, honestly. We see glimpses of his past life, and we can piece together that he grew up in an orphanage and probably was trained to become a weapon or a knight. He never felt the love of a family, which is why when he realized the love his new parents had for him, he broke down crying like the little toddler that he was. Like for real, he's like 2 or 3 years old in this scene. Honestly, there's a lot of things that happened, but at the same time, it's not enough. There was a lot of narration going on to speed up the story, but not a lot of things to show for it. While there were a lot of people disappointed in the animation of the show, which I honestly understand, I actually expected it to be worse than what I've seen so far. Like, yes, there was not a lot of movement and it was a lot of panning around, but honestly, it's not that bad. The animation is not awful, it's just meh when you compare it to animes like Solo Leveling and Mushoku Tensei. I'm naming those two specifically cause it's what people compare it to the most. Now, let's analyze the opening. There's a lot of anime out there with very basic anime openings. It's not a secret that there's a formula on how to create an anime opening, but even when they're very formulaic, there's usually still hints of what's to come in the show that animators will tease. All I can say is, they've got the anime formula down to a T. They've got the character training, running off in the middle of nowhere, and introducing the cast of characters that will be relevant at some point in the story. I don't really have much to say about the flashbacks of him as a king, cause those were already shown in the episode, but after his parents were shown, we're introduced to a cast that looks very much like your average RPG party. We have the mage, the archer, warrior, tank, and assassin. The fact that the assassin is shown on her own could mean that she'd somehow be more relevant than the other characters from her party. Then, we are shown an elf looking incredibly worried. I'm gonna say that she is probably our damsel in distress that Arthur will save. There's some more people flashing on screen who I think will be some sort of mentors or allies for Arthur. This little girl could actually be the dragon, but that's just a wild guess. The two characters in red are probably antagonists. They look very antagonistic and the guy is doing an emo pose. We're then shown some background art that made me wonder, why specifically these shots? I understand that based on episode 1, the roof is important because Arthur ruined his childhood home. I hope they have insurance, by the way. And the roof fell down and almost killed him if it weren't for his parents. I'm not sure what those other shots are for, but I'm going to assume that they're going to be relevant to the story at some point, and they're not just randomly put there for no reason. They also keep showing this orb cracking. I'm going to assume, based on the cultivation novels that I've read so far and that Arthur is using a power called Ki, that this is his golden core. For those who don't know, a golden core is something that stores and controls spiritual energy. His golden core will crack or get tainted since it's slowly turning red as the opening keeps on going. And Arthur will have to embark on a journey to fix it. Maybe. Probably. I don't know. Now, we run to nowhere. What I get from this scene is that at some point Arthur is going to train with a dagger which will become a sword as he gets older. Also, he'll fight a monster. We get shown how cool his allies are and then we see Arthur at different ages. Aside from making him anonymous, the mask he's wearing is probably going to help slow down the destruction of his golden core, and it will probably also nerf him. Tell me how much I got wrong about the plot just assuming things based on the opening. Now, let's analyze the ending cause sometimes there are more symbolisms going on in endings than there are in openings. Okay, so this ending is basically a timeline guide and will show us the relevant people that are going to impact him at that point in his lifetime. As a baby, the most important people in his life are his parents, obviously. And then as he got older, he met the party that his father works with. He will meet the masked guy who he's probably gonna fight before later becoming an ally. I don't know, he looks evil. Elf Girl and Arthur looks to be around the same age. So I can assume that she's going to be a love interest, especially with a pink background and crazy amount of sparkles around her. And then we see a normal looking family. They're probably going to take him in at some point and help him out. This cute little girl is most likely part of that family. I'm going to assume Arthur is going to bond with her a lot and view her as a little sister figure. And then she's going to die. He'll probably save her soul to the point that later on in the series, she gets reborn as a dragon. Maybe. As he continues to run around the same tree, we see an older version of him. This is the version I see often in Tapas's front page, so perhaps the first season will end with us catching a glimpse of him. Based on the negative reviews of the fans, there probably won't be a second season, but who knows? A miracle might happen and TBATE will have a more successful second season. Anyways, that's pretty much my review for the first episode of TBATE. Will I make more episode reviews of this anime? No. I'm busy enough with TBHX, which you guys should definitely give a watch, it's really good. But will I continue to watch TBATE? Maybe. I'll probably check in once in a while because I do think that the story is interesting so far. I'm not really put off with the animation being the way it is, cause I'm busy reading the subs anyway, and I usually give anime 3 episodes before I decide to completely drop it. So, that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. Leave a like, subscribe, and comment how many things I got wrong with my analysis. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!